September 20th, 1881, 2:15 a.m. In an apartment in New York City, a man places his hand on a Bible, the room only illuminated by candlelight. I, Chester Alan Arthur, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies. President James Garfield is dead, felled by his doctors and aided by an assassin's bullet. Hello and welcome back to History in Focus, your one-stop shop for the stuff they didn't teach you in school. This week, we'll be focusing on the death of President James Garfield and its impact on the United States. Just remember to give freedom a ring and hit that subscribe button. James Garfield was born in 1831 in a log cabin in Ohio to a poor family. An incredibly studious individual, the future president would pay his way through college by working as a teacher, a janitor, and a carpenter's assistant. He graduated from Williams College in 1856 as the salutatorian. He would then be admitted to the bar and serve in the Ohio Senate and later the U.S. House of Representatives. In the election of 1880, the Republican ticket was James Garfield and Chester Arthur. Garfield had been a dark horse nominee. In those days, your nominations happened at conventions rather than primary elections. The Republicans were divided between two factions, the stalwarts and the half-breeds. The stalwarts were Republicans who were against civil service reform and high tariffs. Their rival half-breeds were in favor of widespread civil service reform, with positions being given based on merit rather than patronage. Garfield would win the nomination after 36 ballots, with the half-breeds and delegates who favored smaller candidates at the convention supporting him. The election of 1880 would pit Garfield against former General Winfield Scott Hancock. In the traditions of early American politics, Garfield did not openly campaign as we view it in the modern sense, choosing to give speeches on his front porch instead. Meanwhile, other agents of the Republican Party would campaign on Garfield's behalf. One of these was Charles J. Guiteau. Born in 1841, he failed the entrance exam to the University of Michigan and then joined the Oneida religious cult. He would leave the group twice, the second time attempting to sue the group for the work he believed he had done. His wife would describe him as abusive, a liar, and a cheat. In the 1872 election, he supported Democratic candidate Horace Greeley. Guiteau thought that by supporting Greeley, he would be appointed as Minister of Chile in the event of a Democratic victory. Charles Guiteau had decided to support the stalwarts initially in 1880, writing a speech labeled Grant vs. Hancock before just changing the name to Garfield vs. Hancock, which he delivered only a few times. When Garfield won the election, Guiteau was convinced that he had been the primary reason for this victory, and thus felt entitled to a consulship in the State Department. He would go to Washington, D.C., where he would endlessly stalk the president's cabinet and visit the White House pleading for the consulship of either Paris or Vienna. It finally got so annoying that the Secretary of State, James Blaine, told him to never speak to me on the Paris consulship as long as you live. Friendless, penniless, and destitute, Charles decided that Garfield needed to go. He bought a pistol and stalked the president for weeks, learning his schedule and his every movement. On the morning of July 2nd, 1881, President Garfield walked into the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad station. Accompanying him were his two sons, Secretary of State Blaine, and in a cruel twist of fate, son of President Lincoln and current Secretary of War, Robert Todd Lincoln. Guiteau approached the president from behind and then opened fire. His first shot grazed the president's shoulder, who cried out, "By God, what is this?" The second shot hit the president in the back. He collapsed. Guiteau tried to leave the station, but was apprehended by authorities. As he was dragged away, he cried out, "I am stalwart of the stalwarts. Arthur is president now." As the president lay on the ground bleeding, a civil health official tried to reassure him, but Garfield is said to have replied, "I am a dead man." He was taken back to the White House, where he was to be attended by 10 doctors. They expected him to die that night, but 48 hours later, Garfield was still alive and appeared to be recovering. One doctor even said it was beyond a reasonable doubt. However, the lead White House physician, Dr. Willard Bliss, was determined to find the bullet because it was thought critical in the treatment to prevent the poisoning of organs. What follows next can only be described as a comedy of errors. The idea of antiseptics was known, and the first successful treatment had been done in 1866, but Dr. Bliss did not believe in its usefulness. So he stuck his unwashed hands and tools into Garfield's very awake body, looking for the bullet. Throughout this process, Garfield's condition would fluctuate. His doctors continued to look for that damned bullet. When they couldn't find the bullet with their unclean hands, they turned to the inventor of the telephone, Alexander Graham Bell. Bell had invented a metal detector to help find the bullet after being appalled, like the rest of us, at the doctors sticking their hands in Garfield. When Bell tried his detector the first time on the president, there was a mechanical issue. The second time, however, the detector worked. It did detect metal. However, Dr. Bliss was convinced the bullet was on the president's right side and would not let Bell scan the left side. Bell thought the metal detector was only picking up the metal springs on Garfield's bed. You can now facepalm, by the way. Garfield continued to decline, his heart slowly fading. He developed a sepsis infection and began hallucinating, and pus-filled abscesses formed on his body. As his body heated up, the Navy developed the first form of the air conditioner to try and keep the body cool. He would die on September 19th, 1881, a full 2 months after he had been shot. It is debated to this day what ultimately killed Garfield. The modern majority opinion is that the doctor's use of unsterilized hands and instruments, which led to infection, is the primary reason for his death. It has also been suggested that starvation may have also played a role, as he could not keep down the solid or liquid foods. Following the death of Garfield, Charles Guiteau sent a note to now President Chester Arthur, congratulating him on his presidency, and if he wouldn't mind releasing him now since his salary had gone up. The trial of Guiteau would last for just about a year. During the trial, he would yell and curse at just about everyone, sing songs, recite poetry, and pass notes asking for advice from the spectators in the court. This seemed to set things up perfectly for a temporary insanity defense, but Guiteau shot down that argument, saying that he was perfectly sane in choosing to shoot the president. Foreshadowing future doctors' assessments, his lawyers then tried to argue that the doctors had killed the president. But that didn't work either, and Guiteau was hung on June 30th, 1882, dancing on his way to the gallows. Despite being a stalwart, President Arthur continued Garfield's civil service reform, removing the patronage system that had been in place, which is probably the most lasting legacy of Garfield's very brief administration. The rest of his legacy is relegated to what-ifs for historians. Ultimately, despite having seen 2 assassinations in 20 years, the idea of giving the president an official bodyguard was not implemented until the death of President McKinley 20 years later. If you enjoyed this week's content, please subscribe for future videos. Let us know what you thought in the comments below and what you would like us to cover next.